Hmm. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to officially call this meeting into order at 4:01 p.m. We are going to go ahead and start, as always, with roll call. Senator Bigd.
Present.
Senator Gustafson.
Here.
Senator Gabbard. Senator Vondra. Senator Alimo. Senator Mendonça.
Here.
Senator Parte.
Here.
Senator Salim.
Here.
Senator Nemo. Senator Nemo. Senator Hussain. Senator Hussain. Senator Khan.
Here.
Senator Al-Sadi. Senator El-Sadi.
Present.
Senator Albera.
Present.
Senator Osman. Senator Stiff. Senator Nelson. Senator Nelson. Senator Weinzirel. Senator Wickman.
Here.
Senator Ruiz.
Here.
Senator Wheeler.
Here.
Senator Hopwood. Senator Raddat. Senator Bejarano. Senator Bejarano.
Here.
Senator Swancutt. Senator Flynn. Senator Berg.
Present.
Senator Wolfert.
Present.
Senator Mecklenburg. Okay. President Trenny. Here. Vice President Altari. And myself. Perfect. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and move on to presentations. First, we have Vice President Straka talking about the university budget. You can come in. Oh, if you could turn on the mic. Perfect. There you go.
All right, I think I'm on.
Yep.
All right, President Trenny, Senators, thank you for the opportunity to come and give a brief presentation. Obviously, these are unique and unprecedented times, and that is the same thing with our financial situation at the university. We've been very blessed that we have been much more stable than some of our sister institutions in the system. That we're actually ahead a little bit in enrollment for fall. We're looking forward to see what our re-enrollment and retention rates will bring for spring semester, trying really hard to give you all the best learning experience we can give you in these unusual times. And we're hopeful that you keep your confidence in us and stick with us, and we get to see you again here this spring. But there are some challenges for us, both as an institution, as a system, and the state of Minnesota. So I'm going to just share kind of a brief update of where we're at as we look at how this pandemic has affected our budget. And then I'd like to make it a short presentation and leave more time for questions, because I'm sure many of you have questions with what's going on here. So could I have the ability to share screen, perhaps?
Robert, could you make him a co-host, please?
Well, as I talk about this, I'll give you some more information what we're doing here. But basically, as we look at what we're planning in this year and getting ready for next year's budget, we're in the second year of a biennium. The state of Minnesota really does budgets in 2-year cycles, and we're in the second year of a 2-year cycle. Over this 2-year cycle, we knew that we were going to have a structural budget deficit. We've been planning that we knew that we would have that since the legislative session a year and a half ago. And part of that is the way that we're funded. Historically, there's something called biennial math. And if we were going to get 100 say 100 million new dollars in the system. Traditionally, you would get 33 in the first year. You would get an additional 33 in the second, so you're at about 67, and you would have 100 at the end of the biennium. And often our expenses went the same way. But in the last 2 or 3 bienniums, and especially this last biennium, the legislature, in a way to help limit the growth of state government, if they have $100 million to give us, they're giving us $50 million in the first year and no increase, and that same $50 million in the second year. And what happens is that instead of having a base budget moving forward or a tail moving forward of 50 million, or excuse me, of 67 million, we have a base of 50. Yet we haven't adjusted all of our expenditures and inflation to that model yet. And so we see our inflation and expenditures increasing by 33 and then by 67. And what happens is within the 2-year period, you've spent 100 each, but you've got tails moving forward in which your revenue base is only 50 and your expenses are 67. That happened to our entire min-state system over this year. There was, this past year, there was an extra request, a supplemental request. Part of that was about $30 million to recognize that there is that structural gap that was happening within the min-state system, and that's impacting us as well.
You should be able to share your
All
screen
right,
now.
thank you very much. And so, well, there we go. So I will get to that, but what I wanted to just give you an idea of is just how difficult it is to plan for an institution this size, of what some just thumbnails here and guidelines of what small changes in our budget mean. Our academic year tuition is approximately $100 million. So a 1% tuition rate increase is equal to about $1 million. Another way to look at it would be for every 100 FYE change, it's about $750,000, or for every 133 FYE, approximately $1 million. Now, clearly the details are in what residency status it is, grad student, not grad student, PSEO, but that's just kind of a rule of thumb. For our appropriation, we're at $57 million a year this year. So a 1% change is $570,000, or I round it as a rule of thumb to tell people 1% is approximately $500,000. And compensation budget for the university and the general fund is $125 million. So a 1% change is about $1.25 million. So bear with me a second. Say our planning variables change by 1% tuition, there's $1 million. We have 133 FYE change, we're $2 million. We have a 1% appropriation, we're $2.5 million. And we have a 1% change in compensation, we're at $3.7 million, and we haven't changed a single variable by more than 1% if they all went in the wrong way. That gives us some difficulty because the way the state of Minnesota budgets is this legislative session we're moving into will end, hopefully, statutorily and constitutionally in May, with a historical budget deficit in front of us. I could foresee us having some special sessions to finish up their work. It's happened in the past. And yet, that budget that they approve, and then Min-State, hopefully in the May legislative session, will set our tuition rates. That's for the budget that starts July 1st, 6 weeks later. So that is a little bit of a difficulty. It's each year as we head into the first year of a biennium, we're going in with a lot of projections. And generally, I will say, it is not common for us to have our bargaining agreements and therefore our compensation inflation settled by the time we start a year. That generally happens sometimes in the first year of the biennium, rarely, but occasionally in my 30 years in higher ed, it's happened in the second year of a biennium. So we've been as far as 18 to 20 months into a 24-month budget before we knew what our inflation and true costs were. So I just wanted to give you that background as we look. Okay, This is really, as we're looking forward at next year, it's a tale of two biennium. We have the fiscal year 20 and 21, which was last fiscal year and this current fiscal year, and we have about a $3 million structural base challenge in this current year. Some of you may have heard of some of our colleagues and sister institutions. Moorhead last year and Winona both went through some major budget adjustments. They were a year ahead of us in addressing the current biennium. But we also knew we didn't have, as a percent of our budget, as much as them. So I'm comfortable with where we are with our reserve balance. And in setting that decision back 1 year, that was okay. But we're dealing with it now. And there were really three factors that went into that challenge. One is enrollment loss, that over the last 4 years, we had been going down in enrollment. Now we have better enrollment this fall. I do need to dig into that a little bit more and find out how much is concurrent enrollment, how much is tuition enrollment, and especially we have 4 programs, fully online programs, that are set aside, and their tuition dollars go to pay for the cost of those programs and not for the rest of the general fund. So how much of the enrollment was in those programs? We need to break that out more, and I hope to come back with an update for that for you. We have the structural deficit that I talked about in biennial funding, and we have new base expenditures and some costs. We have made investments in student support and success. We've made investments in advising, and we've made a number of investments in technology this year and in other kind of costs. So about $3 million for the current biennium. Now we need to look out and project what's going to happen for the next 2 years, because we're really starting a budget that starts July 1st, and what's going to happen. Again, you can remember the variables I gave you, right? Many different types here. But we have about a $4.7 billion projected state deficit right now. So last February, when there was a last official forecast from the state of Minnesota, the last scheduled official forecast, there was a $1.6 billion projected surplus. And then the pandemic hit. And we had to shut down the economy last March and last April, and we're still seeing impacts of the shutdown economy. In June and July, the state of Minnesota did a revised budget forecast, and that $1.6 billion surplus turned into a projected $4.7 billion deficit. That's on about a $51 to $52 billion state budget. And so that budget deficit is 9% of the anticipated state of Minnesota budget. So next year, the legislature is going to, this spring, they're going to have to deal with how they balance the budget next year. And they can do one of two different things, and maybe a third if you talk about combinations. They can raise revenue, they can raise taxes, or they can cut spending. More likely, it'll be some combination of the two. And a third scenario that hasn't been used in a few bienniums but could be used is an accounting shift. In the past, what the state has done occasionally is taken the June payment, 1/12 of the money that was scheduled to go to K-12, and they delayed it. They shifted it and made that June payment happen in July, and it makes the books look better. Hasn't really changed your financial situation, but it's a bookkeeping change. And when you get to a deficit this large, that's something that could come back in play, though it hasn't been in play for about a decade. So those are things we're looking at. So again, as I look at this, and we're looking at next year, we have these other variables. We have tuition. And again, tuition's made up of two things. It's made up of what is our tuition rate, and we'll be going to the Board of Trustees through this year and saying, what are we going to do? At this point in time, I do believe that we'll be looking at some kind of inflationary increase again. Tuition was frozen, I know, for fall semester, but you'll all be seeing a tuition increase for spring semester. My guess is that we'd be looking at something at a 3% undergraduate tuition rate again for next fall. That's just a planning figure. There's a lot of time to happen between now and then and what's going to happen at the legislature. Then in addition, it's enrollment. What are our enrollment levels? So it's how much volume have and how much the rate is, and that'll tell us how much tuition we're going to have. And then we have our inflation, and we don't know what that's going to be yet. We do have one of our bargaining units who stepped up and said that they are considering foregoing across the board increases for a year to help with this very unusual situation. And it's a bargaining unit that stepped forward and did something very similar a decade ago as well. In addition, we have our appropriation, and we'll be waiting for the legislature to see what happens this year. So at this point in time, I can tell you that we're looking at we have a general fund budget of about $165 million, and we're looking at a budget issue that could be somewhere between $5 and $7 million. And we're looking at what we can do in order to deal with that. I don't have any details in front of you today. Look forward to your input on the budget website under Business Services and Budget. There is input. If you as a student government, or if you as individual students have things that you say, we need to value this, please don't reduce this. Or if you see things that you think are not as valuable to you, and you say, I think these are things where we could spend less on, send in your suggestions, send in your budget input. There's a link there to be able to do that. So we have a challenge in front of us. We're not unlike our sister institutions, and our state of Minnesota higher education is not unlike any other state in the system. This is a higher education problem that's happening right now in response to this pandemic, and it's an overall solution. Those people who are in business and employees who wanted to have jobs and are having a difficult time finding jobs in this economy, this is a macroeconomic problem to figure out how we can get back, and we're not immune to it here in higher ed. So with that, I'll open up with some questions about how we move forward from here.
Are there any questions for Vice President Straka? Senator Gabbard.
Hello. Okay, so first off, you said it would be an increase of around 3%. Do you have an estimate of how much that would be?
If I look at my rule of thumbs
Yeah.
that I showed you, that would be about $3 million for the university, or for an individual student at about $7,500 in tuition, just in tuition, maybe $300.
Okay, okay. And then another question was, I know earlier you said the budget really depends on who's in charge in the legislature.
The two parties historically have
Right.
had different approaches
Right.
to higher education and to the state budget.
Right.
I would say that in general, the Democratic Party has been more interested in raising revenue, while the Republican Party has been more interested in controlling growth of government or reducing or controlling the growth of expenses.
Right.
It's not an across the board always, and I think they meet somewhere in the middle, but that has tended to be
Okay.
the pattern.
Yeah, and then could you talk about like what the difference is? Because right now the Senate is like Republican and the House is Democrat. So let's like, if changes were to occur, how could that affect the budget?
You know, there's a long legislative road ahead of us, and politics is politics, and it's not always completely logical, and it's not always completely predictable. And so it just, there's so many factors in how many outstate representatives are in the majority versus the minority, how many metro, and so forth. All of that deal making that happens to try to make that soup, the legislative soup, as good as they can make it, really depends on all kinds of different factors like that. So in general, I would just say in the past, in Democratic leadership, has been perhaps kinder to higher ed and trying to find more state appropriation to give us, and perhaps some tuition control. The Republican Party has perhaps been trying to hold us more accountable for our spending and looking at tuition rates, but sometimes viewing tuition as instead of a state good, looking at it as a private good. And that's kind of some of the shift that's happened in my time in 30 years in higher education. Is unfortunate that higher education, sometimes the discussion is moved about it being a public good and making the state better, and a better citizenry makes for a better state, to talking about it being a return on investment, and it's just what does the individual get out of their investment in higher ed, and that's been a shift in that discussion.
Yeah.
And I think the two parties have a little different approach
Yeah.
to that discussion as well,
Thank you. Thank you.
certainly.
Do you want me to just leave
Just
this
leave it.
on?
Leave it on, yeah. Senator Flynn.
Just one question. You mentioned the undergraduate tuition rate was estimated to be a 3% increase. Do you have a number for the graduate students?
I don't yet. I can tell you that over the past few years, when we have done undergraduate rates at about 3, we've been closer to 3.9 for our graduate rates. We've been a little bit higher for our graduate rates increases than we have for our undergraduate rate increases.
Okay.
Thank you. You can leave it.
That's history. I can't tell you that's going to project forward.
Thank you. Senator Walford.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. The question I had was specifically aimed at if the university, with the current deficit, was looking at possibly cutting back programs with the addition of feedback from students and other constituencies. When do you think the decisions would be made on what would be cut and what would not be cut? Like, is there a timeline that the administration is hoping to make these decisions by?
Not an absolute deadline, but I would think likely early in spring semester, we would probably be coming out with some suggestions, either at the end of this semester, but more likely, I would say January is a time frame where that might be likely to come out.
Thank you. President Trenny.
Thank you so much, Vice President Straka, for coming and taking the time out of your day to present to us. My question relates to, you mentioned if we do have a deficit, and you don't know the specifics, but do you know what the university will do or is considering doing right now for cutting the deficit?
Well, we will, look at a number of our options, but we're going to be looking at where we have some programs that we have a strategic budget planning process with a number of metrics in how we review our programs, looking at perhaps where we have low enrollments or extraordinarily high-cost programs with low enrollment, and looking at other factors like that. There'll be some financial factors, but there's also be looking at what programs are in demand, what programs graduates are in demand, and all of this. I think we want to look at our budget principles that say even while we have reduced resources, we want to make sure that we're making some investments in the university. So where are there opportunities? Are there new cutting-edge curriculum and cutting-edge programs that we can be investing in order to grow and in order to meet the student demand and in order to meet employer demand? So we're going to be looking at a number of factors. We've always been concerned about how much administration we have, how much what we've looked at. We're a very lean institution, I think administratively, but we'll continue to look at all things across the board where we can. But these will be difficult times ahead of us. We'll get through them, but we'll keep our eye also not just on just getting to the point where we have to meet how much money we have to cut, but we want to keep our eyes out on 5 to 7 to 10 years from now. Where do we want the university to be? What do we want to look like as a university 5 to 7 years from now? And we need to make those investments and make those decisions now, understanding what the implications will be, not just in the short term, but in the midterm and in the long term. And trying to weigh all of those factors is going to be important as we go forward.
Senator Walford, did you have a follow-up?
No, my apologies.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to yield for John, President Trenny?
I yield to John.
Thank you, President Trenny. First of all, Vice President Straka, I'd like to thank you. I've been in many meetings with Vice President Straka, as have several of the executive leadership. Vice President Straka mentioned that our university is not in the straits that some institutions have been, and part of that is for his wise planning, but also another thing that I appreciate is the transparency with which you communicate to the constituency groups across campus. So that's very much appreciated. It's not overly rosy, but it's optimistic enough and honest. So I appreciate that. One question I had is those budget projections that you gave. You mentioned that you noticed that the what was it, $5 to $7 million over the course of 2 bienniums. Our enrollment maintained steady for this semester. Do those numbers assume maintaining enrollment, or is there a projection for enrollment trends to further affect that budget deficit?
Positive enrollment trends could have a positive impact on my projections. I'm being fairly conservative in my projections. Still, as much as we've tried to make sure that we can serve you students as best we can, we understand the trying times. And though we've heard some very positive and appreciative feedback, there have been some concerns from some student groups as well. This is a difficult way to learn, and this is a difficult situation for all of us. So just assuming that we're going to have as good a semester as we've had, as someone who's responsible for a strong fiduciary responsibility for this institution, I'm probably not going to count revenue as quickly as I might. So I think if we have a continued strong spring semester, we'll have to look and see if that might affect our tuition projections, and that might be helpful. We'll see how it goes. But we'll revisit that. We should have a pretty good idea of our re-enrollment by the end of this semester.
Thank you.
Excellent question.
Are there any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Vice President Straka.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you today. If you have other questions, you know where to reach me. I'd be happy to answer them and come back and talk to you again. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you. Next up on our presentations, we have Brian Schneider.
And that Brian Schneider was actually IT Solutions Update. So I'm going to start it and then I'm going to introduce Brian. Although, as with many of my the leaders in IT Solutions, you have already met him and you've seen Brian a lot. Brian is one of our regulars at the Student Senate, and he also runs the student consulting or student tech fee consultation process. So if anybody has any questions as we go through this presentation about things we're not discussing, we'd be happy to answer those questions. But today, what I'm trying to do every single week this year, because of the lack of connection with students, because we're not seeing each other as much, we're trying to bring something to Student Senate to make you aware and also discuss with you. So this week, for example, Brian has a responsibility of the network infrastructure on campus, all the systems, all the behind the scenes things that happen, the computers that run behind the scenes, and the way we keep track of information. So he's going to give an update on the Wi-Fi network on campus, or the overall network on campus, not just the Wi-Fi network, which is kind of the fundamentals of things. And if you remember last year, the Student Senate that were around, the award I received last year, which I was, I don't know, maybe kind of delighted about, but it was called the Wi-Fi is Up Award. And what that was really signifying the fact that we had kind of a bumpy year last year with our Wi-Fi network. And I'd have to come each week and explain why we were having some issues. So what Brian's going to explain is we've made some major investments in our network infrastructure, and we're going to start applying some of that investment and getting it up and running for you. And he's going to tell you some of the details of that. He's also going to give you an update. I know some of you have asked about the network in the res halls, which we don't. It isn't part of our network, but in the res halls, we coordinate that work, and Brian's kind of the right-hand person with them. So we're going to give you that update. By the way, next week, we're going to be talking about communications, how we get information to students about about what's happening in IT. And one of the ways is we come here, obviously, and we spend a lot of time and energy. And as Vice President Straka mentioned, There's been investment in technology, both from the student fees, but also from the institution as a whole. And we want to continue to talk to you both on what we're doing, but what we should be doing. And so we're really open to any discussion, but I'm going to again turn it over to Brian, and you know Brian, so I don't think he needs much introduction. So go for it, Brian.
Hi there. Thank you very much, Mark. You know, EDUCAUSE, EDUCAUSE, EDUCAUSE is an international organization who made up of IT departments throughout higher education all over the world. And one of the things they do for us is some surveys and studies, and they do some research for us. And one of the things I look forward to every fall is a student survey that is done routinely every fall and released on their website. And one of the interesting things that they asked students this year was the specific question, what's the most important technology for studying? And 96% of the students worldwide said that Wi-Fi is the most important technology for studying. And I can believe that. I think all of you use Wi-Fi as well. For those of you that are on campus, depend on it working very well all the time. So one of the things that Mark mentioned is we have been investing and working with our campus network to improve Wi-Fi coverage, Wi-Fi speeds, and positioning ourselves for the future. So we've already made some of the investments in the equipment and the licensing, but we put the implementation on pause because we were having some stability issues with the new equipment and the new software. And that's been resolved. And now we're working again with redesigning our next gen network, which we're going to be preparing for and testing and implementing over winter break. So what we look forward to on that project is much better speeds, better security, faster Wi-Fi, and really building for some of the needs of the students today and of the future. I think you all realize now that video is a very, very important component, and it takes a lot more resources to provide video services as much as we have to today and in the future. So that's the first area that we're working with. Just this last week, we've improved coverage in the basement of the library. Along the outside wall, there are some little study cubicles that are really small that students like to go in and use those for Zoom meetings. So I think we added 8 more access points down there to improve coverage. And also we covered in some areas that we had coverage problems in Armstrong Hall as well. So we are going to be filling in some other weak spots or areas that people are having problems with. We're going to be filling those and improving the Wi-Fi. So the second area that I wanted to update you on is the residence hall Wi-Fi, which has been having problems, but it has been improving. Apogee has been working very hard with Cisco, and we've been helping them as well with trying to identify where some of the problems are. And what they identified is the little access points that are in everybody's room that have, that's where you get your Wi-Fi from. There's a bug in those devices, and they are end of life, and they were scheduled to be replaced this coming winter break with a brand new model. But Cisco said that they're not gonna fix that bug right now because they are an end of life product. But like I said, they will be replaced, and that replacement of those access points in all the rooms is going to start on December 7th, and it should be completed by about December 22nd. So it is going to be a couple of weeks while most of the students are away. They're going to be going room to room and replacing those equipments, replacing those access points, doing speed tests and quality tests, and making sure that everything is all tuned up and ready to go with Wi-Fi 6 by the time students come back in January. So they are also going to put some personal area network equipment in place so that you'll register your devices, but you'll have your own personal network per room, so that it'll provide better security and a little better network privacy as well. So all that is going to be happening over winter break. And I think those improvements, along with some speed improvements, are going to be very refreshing for all the students that live in the residence halls. So that's all I have for my update, but I do want to ask the student government representatives, particularly those for the residence halls, if they're hearing that things are improving, because what we're hearing and what we're hearing from Res Life is that things are getting better. They are rebooting those access points twice a week. It's like during 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning, just to make sure that those access points are refreshed and they're ready to go and they're not causing problems. But I'd be willing to stand for questions if anybody has any questions, and I'd like some feedback if you're hearing if things are improving as well.
Wonderful. Are there any questions? Senator Flynn.
So thank you for coming to speak with us today. And I do appreciate the work that's been done on MavNet on the campus network. I do notice that it is faster. I have a couple questions about what's going on with the ResLife network, though. So has any discussion been given to the number of devices that each student would be able to have yet? Or is that still stuck at 8? Or what's going on with that?
Yeah, from what I understand, it's a licensing limitation. It will be 8 devices, but they may have the ability to accommodate any needs that the students have. So we'll be sure and work with them on that one.
So accommodate, is that like the student purchases access for more devices, or what would that entail, do you think?
Nope. What we would do is find ways that if you had 10 devices that you would have to register, that we would find a way to accommodate that need at no extra charge.
I think we did talk about this last week, the same question, and the answer is still the same, that our plan is to make sure that those that have needs, those needs are met. The initial design was around this concept of 8 per person, but we know, and you explained to us that you had many, many, many more devices than that. And what Brian's saying is, we'll figure out how to make that work, working with the Res Life folks, and we can work with you directly too, and make sure that you get what you need. Brian can work with you directly.
Right.
And I had one other question about the support from Apogee. They tend to be a little dismissive of issues, if you know what I mean. Blaming student equipment versus an issue on their end, like when we lost TV for a couple hours on, was that night? I think it was the night that it stormed. And they thought it was like my TV. So I don't know, I guess that's something to be aware of.
Yeah, well, that isn't not our area of expertise, but we can definitely bring Cindy, Janie, and the team that runs the residential life, and we can make them aware of any issues with support or even the method in which the vendor deals with students. We'd be happy to pass that on.
Okay, that's it for me. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
Senator Walford.
Thank you so much for fielding questions and feedback today. So I have a bit of a positive feedback to give about the Wi-Fi updates. We've noticed a difference at Stadium Heights residence community. I took an informal survey of all the buildings, and overwhelmingly, students said they were seeing improvements compared to a month ago. And so I think that's a positive result. Thank you for listening to student concerns on this issue.
And thank you for making us aware of those problems too. We appreciate that.
Yeah, that one was a big one. They actually had a pretty substantial fiber cut in that area. So there was a series of things that had to take place to get that corrected. And it happened kind of like a perfect storm all about the same time we were having the other challenges. So yeah, I'm glad we got the feedback and we were able to kind of pass to the right people the right information, and I'm glad to hear it's working better.
Are there any other questions or comments? Any others?
I'm going to make one more comment. Brian mentioned the word next gen when he described the Wi-Fi network, and We also use that term at the system level for the next generation of what they call ISRS, the Integrated Student Record System. There's been a multi-year project going on to replace that system. And by the way, for you, you're going to see a term like e-services, or you're going to pay your bill, or you're going to register for classes, or you're going to check your grades. Those are the kinds of things you use the student record system for. And the system is in the process of replacing that. They did send us a note this week and said that there will be a substantial delay in that project. They were not able to come to a negotiated settlement with the vendor that they've chosen, or the vendors that they're negotiating with. And so they're hoping to give us some more direct answers in November, before the November board meeting, and then they'll give us our revised timeline. The timeline had them negotiating and completing a contract with a vendor in March of last year. There were a few interruptions in March. Remember March? It was a different month. But that really doesn't explain all of that's happened. So we're definitely behind that project. So I will be talking about this throughout the campus and sending some information came out about it, but I thought I'd mention that. Long as he mentioned the word next gen, it triggered in my mind, oh yeah, I better tell you what the system calls next gen is having some challenges, and we're really looking forward to a replaced system, but it probably could take as long as an extra year beyond what we'd originally anticipated. So.
Got it. Are there any other questions? Any others? Any others? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, IT Solutions.
Thank you for having us again.
Perfect. So that concludes presentations. We're now going to go ahead and open the floor for open forum. Is there anyone here for open forum?
I am.
Okay. Let's start with you, Ms. Klink.
Hi, I'm here today because I'm wondering if any of the student senators want to work on a survey of any barriers that faculty may experience, thinking about using open access textbooks. So I've been gathering up some different studies that have been done. And so I think we'd ask something like the demographics, previous use of OER, current use of ancillary materials such as quizzes from textbooks, but anything that might present barriers from faculty members using open access textbooks, because I just want to save you guys money on your textbooks. And so if there's a group of senators who want to work on that, I've kind of started gathering some resources so that we could send out a survey. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Senator Gabbard.
Hello. I was gonna say, Manav, are you on?
Pardon me?
I was gonna talk.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Do you want
I'm
to
here.
talk about the academic affairs survey that we were discussing?
So was this with regard to the policy reviews that we were doing earlier this afternoon?
No, this is just regard to all of us having survey questions and stuff. I thought this would fit well with that.
Yes. So I did speak to the Academic Affairs Committee a couple of weeks ago, and we kind of drafted a few questions for surveys that we could send out to the student body for each different college. So I requested the senators to come up with questions for their constituency so they could reach out to the students and then see if we could get any feedback for department-specific questions to kind of improve the college that they were representing.
Wonderful. Were there any other questions? Any others? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Klink. So next up, I have student events team.
Good afternoon. I am Lily Koch from BC Events team. I'm the PR board member. I just wanted to brief you guys on some upcoming events that we have. So we've got a Blizzard raffle in November, and basically, the winner is based off of who chooses the closest day and hour that a 4-inch snowfall occurs on, and then they win a prize for that. We also have a Maverick talent contest coming up. We're accepting submissions starting next week, and then the priority deadline is November 6th. Then the show will be on the 19th, so if you know anybody that's got a talent, send them to us. Then I have a Mavericks pledge to vote on next Wednesday, so the 28th, from 11 to 1:30. You might have seen it. It happened today as well. It's on the UDC lawn. It's providing students an opportunity to pledge to vote for this upcoming election. They get a button and hot chocolate, which is why we brought some today. We also have the Wow Zone night coming up, which is an annual event that we do. Because of COVID, we are requiring students to reserve their tickets online. And they will be $5, and you can either do an 8 to 10 p.m. time slot or a 10 to 12 p.m. time slot. And that's on the 13th of November. And then the last event that we have upcoming is Mavericks in the Kitchen. It's a virtual cooking show featuring dining services chefs, and we'll have more information to come. And then finally, there is a very, very top secret thing that I personally am trying to do for the student events team. As everybody knows, with COVID, everything is so much different, and trying to figure out how to continue to put on events has been incredibly challenging. I mean, things change on a daily basis, and I've seen how much the team has worked so hard for everything, and I just want to do something where we can show that people actually appreciate what we're doing. So I will be sending an email to Andrew with more information, but I'm kind of going to do an art project. So I want to do, my vision for this is a canvas. And then if you know word cloud, where it's the big words and I want to do that. So I'm looking for 1 to 3 words or brief quotes or even a short video tribute, because I might be doing a video as well. So if any of you guys are interested, or if anybody knows anybody that's really interested in that, please reach out to me and I will send you that email with more information.
Wonderful. Are there any questions? President Trenny.
Yes, thank you for coming. And I also wanted to say thank you for the hot chocolate. I appreciate it. So I had a question about the event. I already forgot the Wow Zone event. Okay. Traditionally, that's been free to students. I know the reason why you're charging a $5 fee. It's just so people come. But do you have more in depth? Because usually it's subsidized by student fees already.
Yes. So this is not actually my event. I'm going to have Bill talk about that.
In negotiations with the Wow Zone, they have increased their price per student. And so the board actually spent a good amount of time talking about that, whether to subsidize it more by student fees or to have students pay a portion. We're paying $15 per student for an unlimited 2-hour period. Typical prices are $25. That's what a corporate is going to pay. And so we trade some advertising to get that cost down to us. And particularly knowing in a COVID year, and we're going to have to split things up, the general philosophy was we want to have students put a little bit of skin in the game so that they're more accountable to show up at that time because of capacity limits now, that they're more likely to show up at that time versus, and that's going to give us some more accountability to, in general, have more students come. But it was a price increase from the Wow Zone. I negotiated and they said it was a no-go. I tried to get it down to 12 or 13 and they said 15 or you're not doing it. So that's why there's the price change, particularly this year. We'll look into, once we get more into not so COVID era, if that'll go free again so we can have more students come, if that makes sense. But we also did negotiate a cap too. So once we get past a certain point, actually students are now technically free. We're not paying more than a certain amount. So it's really to cover their costs, because when we do this, it's all hands on deck for all their staff. Plus there's additional cleaning protocols this year as well. Does that make sense, everybody? It was nice to have it free when we can, but sometimes you got to charge too.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions for student events team? Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, I have Todd.
Thank you. Todd Fingston from Campus Recreation. just thought I'd pop in today and give you a little update on the Maverick All Sports Dome. Our plan, and it has been really all semester, is to open up the dome on Monday, October 26th. And we're going to be open from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday nights. We'll have a lot of sport club practices in the facility, but we're also going to have an opportunity for a lot of open dome time because it's just going to be open for our students at this point. There's no external renters to campus until further notice. So we're looking at for sure the rest of fall semester is just going to be our general students, and faculty and staff could get involved as well. But during those open rec times, we're going to plan some times that maybe a floor or an RSO or a group wants to come over and play some kickball. We're going to have some opportunities for things like that. We may have some disc golf baskets so people could do some disc golf putting, beanbag boards in the facility, spike ball. Obviously, people could come in and kick a ball around, play catch, do a lot of those types of things. But we're a little bit limited. We won't be allowing open dome soccer at this point because of social distancing and the safety issues there, as we haven't played intramural outdoor soccer or anything like that this fall. So any of our team contact sports, unless people are just kicking the ball around and doing drills, we can't allow that at this time. So we're trying to come up with other alternatives to our students having access to the facility, obviously, and then being able to play some things and have some fun, even as a team, like in the form of kickball or whatever it might be. So just wanted to give you a little heads up on what we're planning, but we're going to start this coming Monday.
Great. Are there any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Next, I have Sam.
Hi, folks. Sam Steiger from Campus Recreation. I'm the program coordinator for Maverick Adventures. And over the past few years, we've been intentional in working with you to come in and chat with you about Maverick Adventures events that are coming up. Martin Jacaruso, one of the GAs in our area, has been sharing some of the events. We've already held about a handful of them. And amazingly, we're already to mid-October. The snow definitely changes things up. So we might be getting some winter activities in here this semester still. But our next event that's coming up is on October the 30th. It's down at Rasmussen Woods, so just a short walk down the hill. But we're going to be doing a campfire and s'more night down at Rasmussen Woods. The event's from 6 to 9 p.m. And we are encouraging folks to wear costumes because it's the night before Halloween. So that event's just going to be down at Rasmussen Woods. All the sign-up information and registering for the event is on Facebook as well as on our webpage. You can reach out if you have any questions. But we are going to keep going through the cold months with more activities to get our students outside and active, form connections with each other. So you're probably going to see some snowshoeing, some more hikes, all kinds of fun stuff.
Wonderful. Are there any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, thank you, Sam. Is there anybody else here for open forum? Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and close open forum and move on to the consent agenda. Is there any dissent to the approval of the consent agenda? President Trenny, can you state your dissent?
Yes, I dissent to under recognized student organizations, pulling off MSU College Republicans and Turning Point USA at MNSU.
Okay, is there a second? Senator Flynn seconds. John, do we have to go into discussion? Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and enter a period of discussion. Are there any points of discussion?
Well, can I go first to explain?
Senator Flynn, I think
Yeah,
first.
you can go first too.
Senator Flynn, and then we'll go to President Trenny.
So the MNSU College Republicans and Turning Point USA at MNSU, they share a common executive board, a common meeting time, and it appears they are the same group. That is basically what I noticed. And in consultation with Emmy Mank, is that how you pronounce her name? Yeah. We're just gonna set them aside for right now while we figure out what to do with them.
Okay, thank you. President Trenny?
Yes, as Senator Flynn stated, so when we say we're removing them from the consent agenda, we're not disapproving of them. What we're doing is we're setting them aside from their formal recognition process. So the way an RSO is recognized is they, whoever's starting an RSO in here, they basically go through the process with MEMINC and student activities, and then we're the final formality for them to get, the funding approval, the room scheduling approval, using university resources, stuff like that. And so Senator Flynn noticed these two RSOs have similar executive boards, similar goals, similar everything right now. And so after consultation with the university, or Mink, the director of RSOs, we're holding it off just for a little bit while she and student government looks more into it. I will note there is no policy that says they can't be approved. It's just why approve two groups that are the same? And it's not again, not political, not anything. It's just two RSOs with the similar goals and similar stuff like that. So again, the intent is to further investigate and then approve them next week if there's nothing abnormal about it. But we just don't feel comfortable at this time.
Senator Gabbard?
To my knowledge, Turning Point USA is libertarian based and College Republicans is Republican based. That's what I've noticed. So I'm just thinking you could probably make the same argument for Democrat and socialism. So just so you know, there might be some discussion in that. I yield to Andrew if he wants to answer it.
Well, okay, President Trenny, you can go next.
Again, we're not looking at political ideologies. We're just looking at in Engage itself, who's a member of what and who's on the board of what. And like I said, I have no problem approving either one. I just want a little further input and investigation into it. Because in my opinion, this also could result in a policy change eventually. There is, like I said, nothing stating they can't be approved. It's just, I would rather feel more comfortable having more information than not enough and then approving it and being like, whoa, so.
Senator Walford?
Yeah, for clarification, President Trenny, is Turning Point USA and College Republicans is one of the reasons why you're flagging them for redundancy because they have the same bylaws in their constitutions?
President Trenny?
Well, Senator Flynn's observation was executive board and stuff like that. Again, we just feel that the university should investigate more before we give approval. We're not going to bring anything up about these two groups. Just again, I'd rather have more information than not enough and kind of have them relook just before we give the final approval. So.
Are there any other, Senator Flynn?
To clarify, this is not about the actual positions of the group, like what they aim to do or whatever. The Turning Point USA group on Engage right now, all of those members happen to be on the executive board for the College Republicans. And there's, I think, 2 members that are hidden on the Turning Point USA page, if I'm not mistaken. And they meet at the exact same time, and they list the exact same address for correspondence, and it just feels a little odd to me. I mean, I would be saying the same thing if, it was any other group doing a similar thing with the same exec board.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other points of discussion? Senator Weinzirel?
All right. First and foremost, the only thing that I would say, again, politics aside and everything, is that they're 2 separate organizations. They can have the same people on the boards, right? But if there is no policy that's being affected here, why should we deny them access to have their organizations, right? If they're doing everything lawfully, according to our policy, then we should say, yes, you should be allowed to have this organization here at the university. The only thing that I would question is in discussion with Emmy Menk if someone can answer whether she was interested in returning this back to the process. Given her professional approval, I would just ask if she wants us to send it back and to not approve the consent agenda, or I should say reapprove it, taking these two organizations out, then I would reconsider. But given what I've seen right now, Engage is not an all-inclusive list of who's a part of an organization. You know, meeting times may change, and they're not required to list every single detail on Engage either. That's my point. And I would be open to having an answer regarding the question.
Thank you. Senator Walford.
I yield to redundancy.
President Trenny.
So like I said, we did, as soon as Senator Flynn emailed me about it, because he brought this concern to me, I immediately went to Emmy and said, hey, you know, can you provide some context? Can you answer Senator Walford or Senator Flynn's questions? And she said from the policy side of it, she said, she said from a policy side, RSO policy only specifies that a new group should be created if there isn't a group to fit that organization's needs. However, there isn't anything written in the policy to dictate how we determine if a group is too similar or not. Generally, if we have a similar group to try to start up, we'll ask them why they are different from the already existing group and make a determination on whether it should start up from there. Neither of these groups are new, but they technically have different national affiliations, despite very similar missions, visions, values. So if it's one of those odd areas, well, technically there's nothing in the policy against this, but my gut says it's worth additional inquiry. So like my intent from this, if it's approved, is not to deny them. It's just we want to reach out to them and ask what more direct with the RSO leaders, like what is the difference? What is, you know, what are you guys doing different to warrant being two different groups? That's all it's going to be. We're not, you know, I assume this will be back on our consent agenda next Wednesday. It's just, again, just reaching out to those RSO leaders before we approve, because I don't think Emmy's office does that directly. From my knowledge, I know she reads all the constitutions. She makes sure their Engage pages are good, and I think that's all I know, at least. So, yeah.
Senator Walford.
Just a question for President Trenny. So in terms of our club organization, since I am relatively new to the university, does each club receive funding from student governments for example, does the College Republicans and Turning Point USA each receive their own separate type of funding availability to them?
President Trenny, you can respond.
I'm getting a head no from Mark in the audience. Is that correct? Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Could we have you yield to Mark?
I can yield. Oh, no, it's okay. So from what Mark is saying is, no, we don't give them direct money. Like no RSO gets like $50 to spend on whatever. They do get access though to programming and traveling, so they can go to student allocations committee. And like if they were to say throw a program on campus, they could request money that way. Or if they were to travel, they could request money that way as well. But also additionally coming from that is like scheduling rights. Yeah, that's pretty much about it.
Okay, Senator Walford.
Yeah, and just as a follow-up, so that does seem like if there is redundancy where these two organizations are overlapping in their meeting times, then these are two distinct club organizations that have privileges. So it could be worth checking out to ensure that these two organizations do have distinct differences, at least in meeting times, and they do hold their own separate events.
Thank you. Are there any other points of discussion? Any other points of discussion? Any other points of discussion? Seeing no additional points of discussion, we're going to end the discussion period and move on to a vote. So to clarify what you would be voting on is if you vote in favor, you would be striking MSU College Republicans and Turning Point USA at MNSU from the consent agenda. You're not voting on the consent agenda, you're voting on striking these two parts. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. So all in favor of striking that. If you're online, just raise your hand, or if you're online, do the yes. So all in favor of striking. Let me check online quick. And then all opposed? Is there anyone abstaining? No? Okay. So on a vote of 23 to 0 to 0, this does pass. And then, so MSU College Republicans and Turning Point USA at MNSU will be struck from the agenda. So the consent agenda now reads as everything else, just minus those two things. So is there any dissent to the approval of the consent agenda? Is there any dissent? Any dissent? Okay, seeing none, I assume unanimous consent, and the consent agenda is approved as modified. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and move on to officer reports. President Trenny.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I have a couple things. One, thank you everyone for coming today. I appreciate, even though it's a crazy time in our semester with everyone or everything, COVID-19, the election, and our academic courses just being becoming more a part of our lives. So one thing, I don't know if anyone saw it, it just came out probably like a half hour ago. President Downpour did announce what spring break will be for, or the decision for spring break. There was no change to the academic calendar for spring break. That was after a consultation with student government. Obviously, we gave our input as well as other bargaining units. Not saying that's final per se. Obviously, it's played by ear, right? So nothing's final because COVID-19 just isn't normal. So as well as in his President Downward's email, there is a town hall on October 22nd. That's tomorrow, 12 to 1 over Zoom, and it is a town hall with administration. So I encourage everyone here to go if you're free, 12 to 1. Ask questions, seek, give feedback, give your thoughts on everything the university is doing. I'm just one voice, and I want you guys to be part of the process. So definitely go and give your feedback and ask questions that you want to ask. It can be about anything, so there's no topic. I think in there you have to RSVP, so make sure you do because it's a webinar on Zoom. So please read that. The other event happening is, so Students United is doing something different this year. At the request of the board, we want to have more connections across the system with student governments. So they're doing a Student Senate Connection event where we'll be able to collab and meet with different student senates from across the 7 schools. And that's going to be on Friday, November 6th. That's a Friday. 12 to 1:30 on Zoom. So you'll get the chance to meet other senators that are in your similar shoes at different institutions, swap ideas, collaborate a little bit, and really talk about issues facing students and seeing how at each campus we can address them. So I really encourage people to go to that. It's a great way to meet people that aren't from our institution. The other event is we do have our upcoming meet and confer on November 5th, 11:30 to 1. Traditionally, that's been only my cabinet going, but I am opening it up to more students as well that are interested. So please let me know if you are interested in attending. I will provide you more feedback, and I will also give you the agenda and the Zoom link when we have it as well. Last update I have is I've had a lot of great stuff coming up through policy, and you guys will see that probably in like 2 weeks, but there's a lot of great stuff. I'll just say that. That's my update for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any questions for President Trenny? Any questions? Any questions? President Trenny, do you have a question?
I'm not going to ask myself a question, but I'm going to send a really, really long email with the Maverick Adventure flyers, all these dates and posters, as well as just reminders about these things because they're really critical that you are aware and that you can, participate if you do want to. So stay tuned for an email from me probably tomorrow or Friday.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, Vice President Waltari.
Hello everyone, for my officer report, I was able to attend the Academic Affairs Council on the system level. They've been working on updating the goal area 7 and the one Dr. Pat Nelson talked about last week.
Vice President Maltari, people over Zoom can't really hear you clearly.
Hello, can you hear me now?
It's extremely muffled. I'm not sure if I'm speaking for everyone else, but it's extremely muffled.
Yes, Manav, you're not alone. Something's up with the mic. It's not you. Arnavi, it's got to be with the sound system because I am also hearing that.
Sounds the equivalent of a fried microphone.
Okay.
Like too loud.
Can you hear me now? Mic testing, 1, 2, 3. For my officer report, I was able to attend the Academic Affairs Council, and on the system level, they've been trying to they are working on revising the goal area 7, which Dr. Pat Nelson talked about last week, and they've been trying to ensure that students are trained enough to have diversity in that goal area and have a criminal justice review, similarly the one we had in our university on the state level as well. ULEAD is also going on. That's my next update. Andrew Trenny, Mr. Trenny, and Senator Weinzirel and myself, we talked in the panel on the very first day, had a session. Yesterday was the one with keynote speaker. There's still some more sessions left. Please attend it tonight if you guys are available. Today I was able to attend the Equity by Design training workshop. So they've been trying to train the student leaders around mid-state universities about how to ensure diversity and equity in their departments and in their areas. Another thing is the fundraising event. I've been in conversations with Alexander Travata for Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week, and I've talked about it a lot, so I'm not going to bother much with that. Me and President Trenny, we have been involved in conversations about mental health resolutions with Dr. Wendy Chu and Dr. Carrie Much, and we are working on designing a program with them. President Trenny will be there with more details soon. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Vice President Multari? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? See, none. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to my officer report. So I have a few different things. First of all, that's a good teaching moment, what just happened. So if there's like an issue, like if you're on Zoom or in person and there's been either a mistake or you need to notify me of something, I'm going to have you motion for point of order. That's a good way for me to know that there's there's something going on, and then I can recognize you rather than just hop in. So for reference, go ahead and use point of order. Moving on. Okay. Next, what President Trenny was talking about, that, what did you call it, a open forum? Town hall. If you guys go to the town hall, I'll count that as office hours. So that's good to know. Okay, next. So we're kind of reaching that point in the semester where motivation is dipping, both like with school and everything else, and also like the excitement of working on a brand new project is probably starting to wane as you start now having to host all those meetings and contact people via email and all of that. So this is the point where projects start to slow down and kind of taper off for the second part of the semester. And so I just want to encourage everyone to just continue to reach out to your exec team, reach out to your coordinators, reach out to each other, and just make sure that remember why you started working on these projects in the first place. And now that it's becoming more difficult, it's just time to keep digging deep and keep having those meetings, keep sending those emails, keep following up, because if you guys taper off, then the projects taper off. So just keep up the good work, but also if you're stuck, reach out. And then we want to work through that together. My next thing, okay, I have some dates for you, and I'm pretty confident they're right, but not completely confident. So I'll send them out in an email as well. Okay, the week of Thanksgiving break, we won't have a meeting. So I believe that is Thursday, the 25th. That's what I mean, Wednesday, the 25th. So that week we won't have a meeting. And then we will have a meeting the following week, which is on December 2nd, that Wednesday during Dead Week, but that meeting will be completely online. So we won't have an in-person component when we're like at that, because you know how after Thanksgiving, the last 2 weeks of the semester are online, so we'll abide by that as well. So you guys will just join on Zoom. So the last Senate meeting that will have an in-person component for the semester is November 18th. So after that, you get a week off, and then we're online, and then during finals week, right now, we don't have a Senate meeting on the books. If something big comes up and we need to meet, we will, but right now, we won't have that. So that might affect your travel plans or seeing family or something, so just know that we won't have that Thanksgiving break. And then finally, I wanted to introduce our Dean of the Day. So Dean Lioza, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matt Loiza. I'm Dean of the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences. Thank you all for all of the work that you're putting into not just the general order of business, but obviously listening to VP Straka. There's a lot of issues ahead of us as a university that we do really want to hear from you all about. The fact that we're meeting like this just, I think, testifies to just the really, really difficult situation that we're in. I think I can speak on behalf of my colleagues in Council of Deans and a lot of the faculty at the university that, we appreciate the struggles that you're going through, not just managing your classes, but obviously there's a lot going on, whether or not it's the pandemic, whether it's rising political instability and unrest here, being away from friends and family, that all takes a toll. So I encourage you all to, just do what you're doing, keep up the good work, and certainly be there for each other. And if there is anything that either myself or the other deans can do to help your semester go a little bit better, things that we can do to support you, please let us know. As you can see here, it's late in the day. I'm still in my office. So you can definitely find me here, catch me on email, phone, set up a Zoom meeting. And so again, just look forward to hearing from you, and I'm really pleased to be here today. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, let's clap. Wonderful. So are there any questions for me about that? President Trenny?
Do we meet over winter break?
No.
Thank you.
No, we don't meet over winter break. Don't listen to President Trenny. We're not doing that. Okay. Are there any other questions? Senator Gabbard. Senator Gabbard asked if office hours are due this week. They are not. They will be due next week. Are there any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, great. Then we're going to go ahead and move on. We have a lot of senator reports today, you guys, so get ready. We're going to start it off with Senator Stiff.
I think it's on already. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. If you don't know me, I am Rihanna Stiff, and I am one of the at-large senators and the student affairs coordinator for student government. So this year, as far as updates, I have been serving on the safety committee, and I have also joined Students United's delegates as well as the strategic planning committee, and so I'm excited to start that. This year, in both my roles as an at-large senator and a coordinator, I've attended RHA General Assembly meetings for the first time this year, and I have met with Cindy Janey to discuss how we can further collaborate to help students, and hopefully I plan to get her in a meeting soon for student affairs. This year I've been working with Senator Arata and Senator Wheeler to focus on the housing needs of off-campus students. It's something I'm still very passionate about, still very excited about from my previous year in student government, so that is what I have chosen to be my project for this year. So it still affects such a large population of our student body, so that is why I chose to focus on that. And we actually had a meeting with John Wilcock and President Trini and Vice President Maltari to discuss how to move forward with some of our suggestions and comments for off-campus housing managers. We then met separately and came up with some kind of like a script and some questions, suggestions that we plan on giving them. Our next plan of action is to actually divide them up by the departments we feel like need the most action, or that we feel like we have the most comments for, and then speak with them in the upcoming weeks. We are currently focusing on 6 popular student housing complexes around Mankato, so that translates into about 2 for each of us senators who are working on this project right now. I'm again really excited about this because we don't think housing managers and students have worked together in this capacity before, so this could translate into a really good relationship between the students and off-campus housing managers that could benefit students in the long run. Lastly, my committee has had a wonderful dialogue and engagement this year, so I'm super enthusiastic and hopeful about how my committee is going and all the roles that my committee members have taken on over the past semester. So I'm looking forward to ending out the last half of our semester strong. For our last 2 sessions, we have been focusing on policy review, and we will continue to do that periodically over the remainder of our semester and next semester. And we've also been helping each other figure out how to implement some of the projects we have, as they are really ambitious. Some of them are really big. And so we've been really collaborating a lot this semester with helping each other as far as suggestions and comments. We are currently looking for speakers to bring into our committee this year for the last half of the semester. So if anyone here today or over Zoom would like to come into student affairs either as like a smaller capacity rather than Senate and speak with us, we would love to have you. And I'm happy to announce that our committee is now full as far as senators, but as always, we're always looking for motivated individuals, other students to come and join and bring good ideas to the table. So that is all I have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Next up, I have Senator Gustafson.
Hey guys, for those who don't know me, I'm Brandon Gustafson, Senator for the College of Allied Health and Nursing. So for the first half of the semester, I've been bouncing around with idea after idea, trying to figure out something, that intrigues me, something for me to get a jump start on. And I think I finally found it not too long ago. So I'm partnering up with Senator Wickman, and we are looking to get some sort of statue / rock for every chapter in Greek life, so all the fraternities and sororities, somewhere on campus. I'm thinking either next to the dining center, between the dining center and Presca, or between Julius Sears and the library in that little grass space. The reason behind this is recognizing Greek organizations a little bit more on campus. There's not really too much on campus saying like, hey, here's Greek life. And then it also will get freshmen interested in Greek life, helping our retention rates and our new member rates. And then it also will help student retention at the university, because if a student joins Greek life, they're more likely to stick with their whole 4 years at MSU instead of transferring. It'll help all the return rates like that. So yeah, we're still looking into figuring out price points and figuring out the logistics of everything and getting that all taken care of. And that's pretty much all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any questions? Any questions? See none, thank you. Okay, next is Senator Weinzirel.
All right, I'm going to make this really quick today as well so we can get out of here. Just 4 things. First and foremost, with the election coming up, I've been working as what I like to call just a liaison between the county and students here to, right now, get out the vote efforts. Particularly targeting students living in the residence halls through tabling outside the dining center is something that we're looking at doing here to get out the vote. It sounds like student events team is already doing that, which is great, but we're going to hopefully be supporting them in that manner. In addition to advocating for the county to provide easier process to help my constituency, off-campus students, to get information through voting information booths around the county, such as at the MRCI facility, where many, if not the vast majority of off-campus students have the opportunity to vote in person. Number 2 is I'm currently serving on the Director of University Advising Search Committee. It's been an awesome experience, a lot of work, a lot of fun, and it's a very detailed process. I'm happy to say that we have concluded on-campus interviews for some amazing candidates, and we're providing recommendations to the Division of Student Success relatively soon. So hopefully we can get someone out there. 3, the Maverick gaming community. This has been one of my earliest projects that I'm still working on in coordination with the student union, student events team, many more, including some awesome vendors. We held a massive tournament at the beginning of this month where we had over 150 players participate. We had dozens of states represented in a tournament that we held that we're very proud of as a community to help build up that community here at the university. In addition to that, we're investigating ways to keep students involved through periodic virtual events. Those of you that keep an eye on anything gaming related know that the game Among Us is very, very popular right now. And we actually held an event with that game where we were able to attract students to meet each other and to play games with each other. Plus, on most platforms, it's actually free. So, finally, I've talked a little bit, and we're trying to get the ball rolling right now, on looking at the potential of a learning community for people that play video games. And so this is probably going to be my last Senator report this semester, and probably ever, unfortunately, because I'm leaving. But it's our goal to hopefully get something going here in the next year. And number 4, I mentioned last time, student account billing options is something that I was looking at as well. I've talked to, I think he left, VP Rick Straka about this, and a few others, to talk about the FAFSA overflow money that some people receive and how they have to wait until several weeks in the semester in order to utilize that, and looking at a process for, of course, the minority of students, not too many we'd assume to be using this, that would be able to essentially prove that they have that money available, that they're going to receive an overflow, but instead of having to wait until that overflow comes through, being able to apply that to their account early on through buying something such as, for example, a laptop is something that we're looking at. So that they can get that early in the semester, so that they can get that before having to wait for the overflow, and so that they can get that to jump into classes right away, because we know that technology is required in order to participate in those classes. With that, it really is just an equity issue that I'm trying to focus on in that manner as well. So with that, I can take any questions.
Are there any questions for Senator Weinzirel? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Okay, next up I have Senator El-Sadi.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Yusuf El-Sadi. I am one of the senators for Social and Behavioral Studies Department alongside Senator Abera. First of all, let me just thank each and every one of you in this room and those who's joining through Zoom for your resilience and for your constant drive to help represent the students, even with such unprecedented times. The number one most used phrase in 2020 has to be due to COVID. This phrase has surely limited everything around us and made life more restricted. However, it doesn't mean that we should block students' voices to be heard, especially in those crucial and unusual times with so many questions and concerns that might raise up. Being a first-time senator in a student body comes with big responsibility. So I take this semester to get familiar with all the resources our campus has to offer and how I can utilize them to better serve the students. My main concern can be summarized in one term, which is involvement. Involvement in the academic life, involvement in the student life, involvement in the career options, and many resources/events on campus. But again, due to COVID, some things might operate in different direction, but they're still attainable. and present on our campus. The Career Expo, for instance, was a great success. It was virtually executed. 800 students got to connect with 91 employers, with hopefully more events such as this one will take place to allow students to be exposed to more internships and career options. So I have conducted a meeting with the Mankato Mayor, Najwa Masad, where I had the opportunity to share with her a little bit of what we do as a student body, and emphasized on the importance of the presence of the City Council, of the Mankato City Council at MSU, especially within the department that I am currently representing. With so many volunteering opportunities waiting to be filled and so much social work that needs to be done in the Mankato community. In addition, Dean Loaiza, which he is present with us today, is another great resource to achieve the needed standard of involvement for SBS students, with so many things being canceled due to COVID or not well advertised for. The main aim is to make SBS students comfortable to approach any of the faculty members and be able to find whatever resources that they might be looking for. With so many majors that fall under the SBS department, the students should know that they are not alone, and there is a wealth of factors that can help them achieve the success that they want here at MSU, regardless of their race, religion, or sexual orientation. That's all I have for my Senator report for today. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Senator Wheeler.
Hello, good afternoon, Senators. If you don't know me, my name is Jack Wheeler, and I'm representing the off-campus students. So my project for this year for implementing a recycling infrastructure at off-campus housing complexes is going very well. For those who don't know, my project for this semester has been to add recycling bins for apartments who only have one or have none at all on their premises. I've had the privilege of working with Senators Stiff, Raddat, and especially Walfort to create a thorough list of questions for complex managers, communicate with council members like Mike Laban, and to gain support from the city of Mankato. Currently, I'm waiting for a response back from apartment managers, but I'm optimistic about my project and forming a positive relationship between MSU and all of them. With that, I'll take any questions. Thanks for listening.
Are there any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. And then last but not least, I have Senator Salim.
Hello, everyone. My name is Noor Salim. I'm a graduate senator. So basically, on my Senate report, me and Senator Nemo, we have basically scheduled a meeting with our deans, Dr. Brian and also Dr. Chris. And we have discussed some issues that's facing the graduate students. So there are two things that we are working right now. First thing is we are planning to start RSO for graduate students. The reason will be most of the graduate students, when they arrive at Mankato State University, they usually come, take classes, and then they go home. They don't feel like they belong at the university. So what is the RSO will help will be such as housing, also classes, and then a place where they can meet sometimes to discuss about how they can help each other. So, and the second thing we have discussed with Dr. Brian and Dr. Chris will be, we both agreed that basically they have a plan, the university have a plan from until 2030 to increase the minority students to make a lot of programs for graduate studies, basically like enroll a lot of minority students. And we are right now facing attrition when it comes to minority students, going to graduate studies. And I've also scheduled a meeting with the deans of college health and nursing and also college health science. The reason will be for this meeting, we are facing, some students that are basically saying they're not getting admitted to the graduate programs of the nursing programs and public health. So what we are trying to do will be to put the rumors at rest, and then we are planning to get the data and then see how we can help enroll more minority students. And then personally, the reason why I've become a graduate senator will be to help the minority students enroll from all college graduates. So if anyone have any questions, then I'm ready to answer.
Are there any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Okay, next we're going to move on to vacancies. I did not receive any applicants for the Allied Health and Nursing Senator position, so that election will be moved to next week. Just a reminder that our CSAT election is also next week, so if you know anybody, tell them to apply and get their application in by Tuesday at noon, so I can send it out for you guys. With that, it's now time to move on to new business. We do have a motion. This motion was motioned by President Cheney and seconded by Senator Walfort. President Cheney, would you like to speak on your motion?
Yes. So the title is Reforming the Legislative Affairs Coordinator Position. And so I'm going to walk through the legislation and go through the background of it and why I'm proposing it along with Senator Wolfart, who currently holds that spot. So basically, this bylaw amendment strikes out everything in the current bylaw for the Legislative Affairs Coordinator, and it replaces it with basically it will be renamed to the Student Government City and Local Affairs Coordinator, and it should be the liaison between Minnesota State University Mankato student government and the City of Mankato, North Mankato, and the Blue Earth County's Board of County Commissioners. And then the City and Local Affairs Coordinator will observe City Council and County Board meetings to record relevant information of importance to students. If need be, the coordinator will advocate on behalf of the student body with prior presidential approval. In addition, the City and Local Affairs Coordinator is expected to serve on the City and University Committee and report to Senate what is occurring at the city level. The City and Local Affairs Coordinator is also required to serve on the Student Affairs Committee. And then the last part of it is just striking out the committee because we just don't, Senator Wolfart and I don't feel it needs a committee, besides the fact that that committee's basically been, well, it wasn't empty last year, but it had like, what, one person, Brian, right? It was, yeah. Yeah, okay, 3 last year, 1 this year, 4 the year prior. So it's like not a functioning committee anyways, so we just felt the need to remove it. And so the background of it is one, this year, for those that don't know, all our coordinators are paid. Years prior, in past years of student government, the only coordinators that received a stipend were the Student Affairs Coordinator, Academic Affairs Coordinator, and then the PR Marketing Coordinator. And so I felt that, well, because if Senate is making an investment in ourselves, that the position needs to become more than what it is and what it has been in the past. Because the prior responsibilities of the position was to track state and federal issues, but a lot of that overlaps with Students United and the professional staff at Students United, who not only provide us with federal and state updates, but also we have a lobbyist at Students United, so we really don't need one at the campus level. And then the other reason is we've always, off-campus senators specifically, we always talk about projects we want to work on outside of the walls of the university. Well, how are we supposed to do that if we don't bridge the gap between student government and the city? And North Mankato and the county board. It's one way, I and Senator Wolfart have adapted the position this year just without changing the wording to the bylaws, is it will be more of a city and local affairs position where I think Senator Wolfart has been going to city council meetings. He's been meeting with city council members as well and kind of talking about issues we're facing as students. So we want to put that in writing because, we don't want to wait until the end of the year to change something. I think it's just best practice to keep updating things now. So we just don't have to do 50 motions in one meeting because then Kara will have a heart attack. So that's our intent, and that's kind of the goal of this as well. Yes, if there's any questions.
Thank you. Senator Wolfart, would you like to speak on your second?
Yeah, I think President Trenny really summed it up well. We were looking over the position, actually, we even spoke about over the summer. And essentially, since the position is being paid, there should be a substantial investment, not only in the position, but also the person that holds the position should really make good use of their time. And I think reforming the actual description duties is important because the city is an important aspect students need to connect with. And I know already this year I've been able to, and I've had the pleasure of working with Senator Wheeler on his recycling proposal. And I've helped him kind of bridge the gap between city and student by emailing Councilmember Lavin on his behalf. And it's brought a lot of context to him in his project. And so I think that anyone that does need assistance making that connection with the city, I'm more than happy to work with them. And already there have been substantial benefits to having a more of a city and local county focus rather than looking at state and federal, just because we do have that redundancy since Students United helps us with that.
Thank you. We're now going to enter a questioning period. Are there any questions on the motion? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, seeing no questions, I assume no one has any, so then we're going to go and move on to discussion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Senator Swancutt.
What's on? Perfect. As the former, I held this position before Senator Wolfert, and I do like this focus better. I can tell you the one thing that I was able to do last year is I was able to organize a lobby day at the state level, and that took all of my time for that and end up not making much of an impact because of everything that happened in March. But I do like this better. A lot of change happens at the local level. A lot of tangible change that we can see happens here, and focusing on that more than at the state level. We have Thomas Anderson, who's the lobbyist for Students United at the state, and that is a full-time job, tracking what happens at the state, and this is not. So I do really agree to this. I will be voting for this.
Thank you. Are there any other points of discussion? Any other points of discussion? Any other points of discussion? Okay, so seeing none, I'm going to assume there's no other points of discussion. Because this is a bylaw change, this is a 2-week process. So how this works is we're just going to conclude today's portion of talking about this, and then it'll get moved to old business. And then next week we'll have discussion on it again and then vote. So we're going to go ahead and move on from there then. So next up is old business, but currently we have none. So then on to announcements. Are there any announcements? Any, John, and then Senator Roddick, you can go after.
Congratulations on a lot of the legislation that's coming forward. I think you're going to see some other stuff come forward from your executive officers. So great work on doing some stuff that's being impactful for students. So a couple of announcements that I do have. As Vice President Maltari announced, ULEAD is continuing. Tonight is night 3 of 4. The sessions taking place this evening are both relevant to what you're experiencing as students right now. The 7:00 p.m. session, which offers an in-person component if you would wish to join, is taking place in Morris Hall 103 and is being presented by Dr. Kristen Vankara from the Communication Studies Department. The session is titled, Say What? Having Difficult Conversations with People You Care About. The idea behind this session was that given the times that we're in right now, there are oftentimes topics that you might have opinions on that differ with the opinions of other people who you are going to encounter, whether they're your friends, roommates, or the awkward uncle at Thanksgiving dinner. So Dr. Vankara's presentation is going to focus tonight on how to have those conversations and still stay civil with each other and not come out feeling like you want to bang your head against the wall. So that is happening at 7 o'clock tonight. The 8 o'clock session this evening is focused on studying in an online academic environment and overcoming Zoom fatigue. Ironically, the session is only available on Zoom tonight. Please feel free to join. That will be at 8 o'clock. If you visit the Engage page, you'll find links to both sessions, but the in-person session with Dr. Von Carr is going to be incredible. I'm excited to actually be there for that myself. Tomorrow evening, the 7 o'clock session is being presented by a counselor from our Counseling and Testing Center, and it's going to focus on how to maintain meaningful relationships, meaningful interpersonal relationships with people when you're being told to distance from other people. So that is going to be our 7 o'clock session. Our 8 o'clock session will be presented by the Maverick involvement team, and it's Leadership 101 basically. So our target audience for that is the new and upcoming student leader on campus who's looking to figure out what leadership means and how it might manifest itself. So that's the ULEAD cap for the rest of the week. So please feel free to attend any of those sessions. It's free and open to any student. Off-campus housing, that's one of the roles that I work in on campus. We will be having a housing fair on Election Day, November 3rd, from 11 to 1 in the CSU ballroom. This process does start early, and so we will have housing property managers available there to consult with students. But we'll also be having an extended period, a 2-week period. There will be a Mav Hunt Housing Edition, scavenger hunt hosted on Goose Chase that will encourage students to go find out more information that will help them as they start to decide where to live for next year. So there will be prizes available in a 2-week period for students to be encouraged to go visit properties and do some digging online themselves. So lots going on. Again, congratulations on your work. And if you have not yet gotten one of the Horns Up masks on shirts, please come by our office and we can hook you up with that.
Thank you. Senator Raddat?
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm done with my senator report, but recently I just took up a new project, and which is about introducing more bus routes and introducing more bus shelters with heating available in them. And I already spoke to the Student Affairs Committee, and they all know of it, but I'd be really looking forward to your suggestions where like we could put up like some more bus shelters and where like heaters are needed. I'm really looking forward to like your support in this, and if you have any sort of suggestions, just send me a text or like just a formal email. It's not necessary actually. Just like send me an email, just a text, that would be all. And I'll talk to David Cowan and we'll get back on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. President Trenny?
Yes, I just wanted to provide a little bit of clarification from our earlier consent agenda of removing the College Republicans in Turning Point. So formal recognition is tabled basically. So I personally expect it to either be reapproved or not, like something next week. But they still maintain their privileges for now, like tabling and stuff like that. So that isn't changing. So just to clarify, those two groups are still able to table and use university spaces. It's just their formal process is still tabled while we just kind of ask some sideline questions to them. So I just wanted to clarify that for everybody.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements? Any other announcements? Senator Gabbard?
Okay, so tomorrow, Student Government, the PR Marketing Committee is partnering with Student Events team for a tabling event from 10 to 1 p.m. And we're trying to get people to write down their voting plan. And then once they do that, they get a free Spirit Month t-shirt. So we're having that event tomorrow by the Lincoln Lounge. So yeah, we invite everyone to come on by, write down your voting plan, and then you get a free shirt.
Thank you.
It's 10 to 1. And yeah.
Thank you. Vice President Maltari?
Will that be counted as office hours?
Yes, if they're tabling, that counts as office hours. Are there any other announcements? Any other announcements? Any other announcements? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on and go into roll call in a second. Okay, Senator Bigd.
Present.
Senator Gustafson.
Here.
Senator Gabbard. Senator Vondra. Senator Alimo. Senator Mendonça.
Here.
Senator Parte.
Here.
Senator Salim.
Present.
Senator Nemo.
Present.
Senator Hussain. Senator Khan.
Here.
Senator Al-Sadi.
Present.
Senator Albera.
Present.
Senator Osman. Senator Stiff. Senator Nelson. Senator Weinzirel. Senator Wickman.
Here.
Senator Ruiz.
Here.
Senator Wheeler.
Here.
Senator Hopwood.
Here.
Senator Rodditt. Senator Bejarano.
Here.
Senator Swankut. Senator Flynn. Senator Berg.
Here.
Senator Wolfert.
Here.
Senator Mecklenburg. President Trenny. Vice President Altari. Myself. And then we are going to officially adjourn at 5:52 p.m. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.